Welcome to Coffee Chat, etc., where we explore real women with real lives and real stories. In each episode, we will delve into a variety of topics that address the many obstacles women face from childhood to adulthood. I'm your host, Tracy Cox, and I'm really pleased and honoured that you're here with me today. This is the first of many more podcasts to come, exploring the trials and tribulations we go through as women. My hope is that you'll find them inspirational, educational, and motivational. And they're definitely going to get better over time. So before we start our first podcast, A Journey of Strength, I just want to mention that while I aim to create a safe and supportive environment for you, the listener, it is important to note that some of these episodes may cover sensitive topics, including discussions around adversity, trauma, mental health, violence, and sexual references. These subjects may evoke strong emotions or trigger responses within you, and I really urge you to seek support and/or professional help if you are affected by any of these subjects. Your well-being is my priority, and I want you to feel empowered and supported. So before we begin this journey together, grab yourself a coffee, get comfy, and let's start. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, the incredible Jo Hoskins. Jo has faced numerous trials and tribulations throughout her life and continues to rise above them with strength and resilience. Her story is one of courage, growth, and perseverance, and I hope you find this podcast as inspiring, motivating, and empowering as I do. So, welcome, Jo.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
Fabulous. How are you today?
Very well, thank you very much. Very much looking forward to talking to you.
Brilliant. Because we've met once and I was
Yeah.
really intrigued by your story, and I wanted to hear the in-depth version of that, which is why I invited you on the podcast, because it's a bit of a crazy story for you and lots of resilience in there. And I was just hoping that you could share this with the audience so that we could find
100%.
some inspiration.
It's very strange listening to somebody say that your life, you've had experienced significant, events and you are resilient, because when you are that person, you don't really consider it. You sort of, something happens and you think, you get over it and you move on to the next one, and then something else happens. And you don't often pause to reflect on the challenges that you've overcome. You look at the challenge that you're facing currently and think, oh my God, what's going on in another one. But
Yeah.
being called resilient is actually, I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. But I don't actually consider it. I'm diabetic, and I forget that I'm diabetic because I don't consider it on a daily basis. So if something happens, my nature is to overcome it. I don't stop to think, can I? It's like, okay, what's the solution?
Yeah. It's interesting about the diabetes because you have type 1 diabetes. Is that something that you were born with, or is that something that you developed later on in life?
No. Was I lucky, unlucky? I don't know. I think I was diagnosed at 30, and I would much rather have been diagnosed at 30 than as a child. I think I look at my friends or people in the group that I know of diabetics, and I think, oh my God, you're so brave having a 4-year-old that's diabetic. How do you manage? It's bad enough as an adult dealing with the processes and the feelings that come with the challenges that come with type 1. So no, I had just run the London Marathon, and a couple of weeks after, I was starting to feel really tired. I had spots that just weren't going away. I felt awful. I kept getting up in the night to wee, which at the time, with hindsight, the magic thing in it. But I didn't think about it. And I was so hungry. And I just thought, I just put it down to, it's post-marathon. I'm just recovering. Until I went to the doctors. I thought, this is insane. I must have something wrong with me. And they gave me antibiotics. And then 10 days later, I went back because the antibiotics obviously haven't worked on type 1 diabetes.
Of course.
And then they gave me antidepressants because they'd said, maybe it's just maybe it's just state of mind. And so off I toddled with antidepressants. And then 2 weeks later, so this is now 4 weeks after the marathon, I thought, there's something definitely wrong here. And they just said, no, there's nothing wrong.
Right. Okay.
It just, maybe you need to take that, to train less and sleep more. And then I passed out in Waitrose. I just I passed out and I fell into a diabetic coma in Waitrose.
Oh my goodness.
And
Okay.
and then when they took me to hospital, obviously it was very clear that I was type 1 diabetic.
Right.
So that was just another trauma. Uh, so I was 30, which is late for junior onset diabetes. They said to me when I was diagnosed, "You're very old for being diagnosed." Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I have a friend who was diagnosed at 21 and she'd gone through a breakup in her relationship. And the trauma that she had received at that point, they believed that that brought on the onset of type 1 diabetes.
100%.
Did you have that kind of trauma at that time? Or do you think it was
I
maybe
think it might.
instigated
I
by
think
the
I'd had
marathon?
I think it was an accumulation of many traumas. And there's nobody in my family with type 1 diabetes, but we have since found out from research that my mum has lymphotigo, the patches, which is an
Yeah,
autoimmune condition.
of
So she's
course.
had
Yeah.
it for years, and she had it when she was carrying me. So there's a tenuous link there
Okay.
between autoimmune conditions. And I don't know whether it's a guilt thing, but I blame myself partly for my actions up until I was 30. I don't know whether I contributed to kicking off this autoimmune reaction because, as I told you, and I'm sure we're going to delve into, I was a professional ballet dancer. I had numerous eating disorders. I was ridiculously underweight.
Yeah.
Um, I had a road accident. I had to finish dancing, which was another trauma. I didn't know what I was doing with my life, which was traumatic in itself. And then I started running marathons. So it was like, I think it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. That one marathon
Right.
was just my body saying, right, this is enough.
Yeah.
We've had enough. This is now what is happening, and you need to
Yeah.
listen. And then obviously type 1 diagnosis. But with the type 1 diagnosis, it wasn't straightforward in terms of I was a complex case because having had a history of eating disorders, I was then weaponized with the ability to control my weight.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know type 1 diabetes, just a brief synopsis, when you are type 1 diabetic, your body cannot process the blood sugar because you're not producing insulin, which would
Yeah.
go to store it in safe places, which can help you gain weight. Without insulin, your blood sugar levels go high. When they are sky high, and we call that ketoacidosis, your body breaks down. So you can't maintain weight. In fact, you lose weight
Yeah.
rapidly. You lose a lot of muscle. And so I was then given this tool, this weapon that was, well, if you don't
Okay.
inject, you will continue to lose weight. If you don't inject, you can manipulate your weight.
Yeah.
So for 3 years, I think I was the worst diabetic in the world because I just found this new way of I could eat or drink whatever I wanted and still be skinny.
Yeah.
Not healthy. I was in and out of hospital the whole time. I felt terrible. Any diabetics out there will know what it feels like to be high and to have lows. But it was all, as far as I was concerned, it was all worth it to be skinny until my eyesight started going. And then it was a reality check. And until I wanted
Yeah.
to get pregnant, until I thought, I had two things going on. One, I wanted to be pregnant. And one, someone was telling me that I was going to be blind by the time I was 40.
Wow. Yeah. So
Both of which,
can we just probe into that a little
yeah,
bit? And because the eating disorder started from quite a young age, didn't it?
yeah.
And that kind of was the lead up to your type 1 diabetes onset, or you believe that
I think it
contributed towards
contributed
that?
to it. I
Yeah.
think my dysregulated eating patterns. So just to put it in perspective, I went to full-time ballet school when I was 16, and from the age of 16 to 19, I was weighed every single Monday. So after every weekend, when you came back, you were weighed. If you weren't the right weight, you would be removed from the rehearsals that week. So it was a punishment. So
Wow.
that became trauma driven, that, I have to be a certain way. And I was a chubby teenager. Like, I was quite a chubby kid. But that changed overnight when I went to full-time ballet school. And also I was surrounded by peers that were tiny.
Did you
And
actually do the ballet before then, though, leading up to the
yeah, full
16?
time.
So
So I
when
was
did
full
it
time.
actually start? When did your ballet start?
Oh, 4. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah. I
Oh,
knew I was going to be a ballet dancer from the age of 8.
wow.
Like, and my parents were fully on board. I was very, very lucky. They did
Yeah.
everything. They took me to all the competitions. They paid a fortune for all the teachers that I needed to get me to full-time ballet school, vocational school, which I did.
And at that time, you were eating healthily and you had a healthy
Yeah,
attitude
yeah,
towards
because my
food,
my family
chocolate,
had
cakes.
yeah. My family had a healthy attitude towards food. I mean, I'm not going to lie. My mum, we're talking about the 80s, and so my mum was always on the cabbage soup diet, or the,
Okay.
rosemary Connolly, but nothing that would have normally changed my attitude with relationship with food. I got on very well with food until I was, 15. I actually went away to ballet school when I was 15, because I was the youngest in the year. But it was a world that I had never entertained before, because all the girls around me, because we lived together, were restricting their eating, and they wouldn't eat certain foods. And I hadn't considered this before. I'm like, wow.
Okay.
And I went in at the deep end. I wanted to be a professional ballet dancer, and therefore I was going to do everything to make myself the
Wow.
best. So I did
At
everything that
16
they
years
did.
old,
Yeah, I
which is
did
very
everything they did
impressionable
and more.
age.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was living in London. I was away from my, I was living in digs, away from my parents, who couldn't support me, couldn't
Yeah.
guide me. Um, I think it was traumatic for them. So I know it was traumatic for them to watch. So yeah, it became a way of life. It became what I did to look the way that I know I needed to look to get a job. And then when I did get a job, it became even more consuming, because I needed to keep that job.
Wow.
And, you know, to get the roles, it wasn't a case that you could do the role. It was a case that you had to look the best doing that
Yeah.
role. And this was 25 years ago. So I hope that, and I sort of get an idea that the dance world has changed, the ballet world has changed, just looking at the general shapes that are on stages and on the screen. But at that time, 25 years ago, all dancers looked the same.
Skinny.
And it was
Yeah.
aesthetic. If you didn't fit in, if you didn't look a certain way, then you had no chance.
You
And
didn't get the
there were,
roles.
exactly, and there still are so few opportunities for ballet dancers,
So what
especially
kind
in
of
the
food,
UK.
what kind of foods were you eating during the week? How often
Oh,
were you
do you know what?
eating?
Oh, I would have a breakfast. I'd have like fruit for breakfast, but I wouldn't eat all day. And this
Wow.
is, bearing in mind, 8 hours of dancing,
Yeah.
8 hours minimum of dancing, and I wouldn't eat a thing. I might eat an apple or a pear, copious amounts of black coffee, and then in the evening I would have a meal. But that meal over the years became more and more restrictive, and there were foods that I just would not eat, until it became that my evening meal was just a big bowl of fruit with like
Wow.
half a jar of honey on it.
Wow. Yeah.
So, because they were my safe foods, I couldn't
Yeah.
cook. I couldn't eat real food, because then that felt like I was eating, whereas fruit and honey it was just snacks.
And how are your energy levels then when you're dancing so much and you're using so much energy?
Do you know what? I look back and I think that I never
How
once
did you
thought
do it?
about it at the time. Never
No.
once. Because the determination, I don't think you will find anyone more determined than an anorexic,
Yeah.
because it's a very selfish place to be. You don't think about anybody else. And you are so determined.
Yeah.
Like, the discipline and the determination is insane, because you just keep going. You keep going. I remember doing 8 hours of of rehearsals and classes, and then going swimming, walking to the swimming pool, which was a good couple of miles away, swimming for 45 minutes, and then walking all the way home, which is about an hour and a half walk. And I
Wow.
just did it without thinking.
Just to keep your figure, just to keep the roles
Small.
coming in. So
Yeah.
what kind of changed that then? So you had the anorexia. What kind of helped to
Uh,
change your attitude, your mindset towards that?
okay. It was gradually over time as I got older that I realized I started thinking, I'm not happy. I'm not happy living. How many more years do I want to live like this? And I knew that unless I knew the only way I could get rid of it was to step away from the world I was in, which was
Wow.
dancing. And I remember specifically one turning point was we were doing Swan Lake and we were on tour actually down near my parents and they came to watch. And I was staying at my parents' house for the week while we were touring there. And my dad used to do this test. He used to wrap his finger and thumb around
Okay.
my arm. And he used it as a sort of test to see how skinny I was. And he did it around my upper arm, and his finger and thumb easily met. And he broke down in tears. And he was sitting on my bed and he just cried. And I will never, ever forget that moment because
Yeah.
I just thought, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't me it was affecting, it was them.
The
And
realization.
yeah, and the realization that I was making their world so sad. So I had to do something.
Yeah.
So that summer, I gave my notice in and I walked away, never to dance again.
Wow.
I never, and I have never danced again. I've never
And you were happy with
got a
that?
class. Am I happy with it?
How was that for you?
It my coping strategy is and always has been I box things off. So that was then, and I literally had to create a box for it, and I didn't talk about it. No one talked about it because I think they were too worried. So that made it easier for me not to talk about it. And
Of
then
course.
I just transferred that energy to something else,
Okay.
and forgot about it. So it's like a past life. It's like a life that I had that I look back on now because there's a big distance between it, and
Sure.
I can look back and think that was an amazing thing to do. And sometimes I wish I think what would have happened if I could have carried on dancing. But in my heart, I know I'm not the kind of person to just to to settle. Like I would have either killed myself, I'd have been institutionalized, or I wouldn't have been able to dance at the level that I was because mentally I wouldn't have been
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had that edge. So either way, I would never have got much further, I don't think.
No. It's really interesting because we're all driven by either pain or pleasure. And more than often, we're driven by the pain. And I'm guessing seeing the pain that your dad was in
Yeah,
helped to make you kind of turn your life around.
100% because it was I was in pain every day. You know, I was
Yeah.
literally killing myself, but I wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point I would have stopped.
Yeah.
I'd have had to be sent, I would have had to be sectioned because nothing was going to stop me.
Well, that's a massive plus to you. So well done for that. Because
Yeah.
that's just, yeah, a very inspirational story. So what did you then go on and do?
So then I was really lost. I initially tried to be cabin crew. So I thought, okay, I'm going to jump headfirst into the realms of normal people. But unless you've been a ballet dancer, you won't understand that I'd been in a bubble my entire life. Like I'd been the ballet dancer at junior school. I've been the ballet dancer wherever I went. Then I went to a ballet school and then I went to ballet companies. I hadn't lived a life outside of the ballet world.
Yeah.
Everything in my life had been controlled by being a ballet dancer. I hadn't had normal relationships. I hadn't experienced life outside of theaters, touring, scheduling of a ballet company. So stepping outside was just a massive change and suddenly having to find find a job, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so I flew, I became cabin crew, but that only lasted 6 months before I had a pulmonary embolism, which is a
Oh,
blood clot on the
goodness.
lung.
Yeah.
So, so I flew for six
Okay.
months and then had a
Yeah.
blood clot on the lung, which then put pay to flying career, which,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not devastated by. It wasn't a career that I was in long enough, but it's just another blow. So then I had to change my career again. And Then I started work. I moved back home and I started work as a receptionist for a health club. And only about 3 months in, I thought, this isn't what I want to do. But I became invested in the gym.
Okay.
Obviously, I now see that this was a transference of, you know, being able to be physical.
Yeah.
Um, the anorexia at this time was being well managed. Any anorexic will tell you that there's a part of your brain that will always think about it, but it's how you manage it on a daily basis. And at that point, it was pretty well managed. Yeah, I was a healthy weight. I ate a pretty good diet. And then I moved into the gym and I became a Pilates teacher, personal trainer. And then I started doing sort of bigger and bigger training events, as like I said, marathons, half iron. And then I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And all the
Yeah.
consultants said, you're going to have to back off training. You 25 years ago, 20 years ago, you're going to have to do less. We can't manage you when you're doing so much. You've got to do less. So then I thought, oh, God, another career is going to be stopped because I can't do it.
Yeah.
But that was when I was 30. But I thought, no, I'm going to do it. So I was a badly managed diabetic for a couple of years until I met my husband. And it was meeting my husband and us wanting to have children that was the light switch that determined I controlled my type 1 diabetes, which
Yeah.
then improved my whole health, my mental health. And that was the real trigger for I've got to be healthier, which
Yeah.
ultimately cured, controlled my
Yeah.
anorexia.
It sounds like that connection that you had was what you needed. From
Yeah,
me listening to your story, it sounds that you were quite disconnected throughout and guided by kind of circumstances around you. But when you met your husband and connected, then it gave you a kind of bigger purpose and something,
yeah,
to help yourself to get healthy, to
yeah.
improve
And
your well-being.
exactly. And I think, he was incredibly supportive of helping me, he was patient. He wanted to do anything that he could to support me. Um, and obviously that helped,
Yeah.
having somebody by your side that's helping you. And we had a joint goal in life, which was to have a child. And I think, which leads to my next, challenge, which was I fertility issues. Just couldn't get pregnant. But it fell under the bracket of what do they call it? Yeah, it unknown infertility. They couldn't
Okay.
put a title on it, just unknown infertility. But I have no doubt that my previous background would be contributing to it.
Okay.
You know, hormonal issues. Because I was so tiny, I didn't start my periods till I was 19. And then,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. And then in my head, this is how messed up my head was during my dance years. If I did have a period, it meant I put on weight. So then that
Right.
meant I was restricted more to ensure that I didn't have another cycle.
Yeah.
So that meant that very few cycles between age 19 and 26,
Yeah.
which ultimately would have affected my fertility. But, no matter how healthy I was at 32, I'd done the damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, with diabetes, it's known to help to make getting pregnant harder.
And that must have been really, really hard for you, after going through what you'd gone through and then learning that that could have kind of impacted your chances of
Yeah.
fertility.
Yeah. And,
So
and it's
kind of
not
how did
something
you
that you
deal with
talk
that?
about. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's not the kind of thing that you go out and say, we can't get pregnant because I messed up my life.
No.
Um, so you just internalize it. It's just something else that you carry.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of weight to carry, but you do it because you start thinking to yourself, well, what's the point in saying anything because I can't change it. I just have to get on with it. And
Yeah.
I've got to find ways, I've got to find solutions. So it was never spoken about between me and my husband as to why. So yeah, that was sort of just we knew it was just not happen. We didn't have to talk about it. But then we had failed IVF. The IVF didn't work. Fortunately, my husband is on exactly the same page as me, very pragmatic, bullet points, list, this is what we're going to do. If plan A doesn't work, this is plan B. And we both agreed before we'd entered into IVF that if IVF didn't work, we would look at adoption.
Okay.
So I think having that there, knowing that we were both willing to try that as a backup, meant the pressure was, we were obviously devastated the IVF didn't work, but we also knew it wasn't that our dreams of having a child were at an end.
Yeah.
It was just a different path. And we're also both very strongly of the opinion that we are only given what the challenges that we personally can deal with, that then we're given them for a reason.
Yeah.
And because of that, we met our beautiful son,
Yeah.
and we're very, very, we're blessed to have him. And he was given to us for a reason.
Yeah. At what age did you adopt him?
He was 14 months when he came home. He was, I think, 12 months when we met him, and 14 months when he came home.
Wow. And that's actually an amazing kind of end to the story, because I always feel that we're kind of guided and, the universe only puts in our way, like you said, what you can handle. And I think having that kind of special child that, needs help and support, I think kind of, coming to you at a time when you needed it and he needed it more, I think
Yeah,
that's just amazing.
100%.
And
I
meant to
think,
be.
yeah. And I think as older parents, I was 40 and Paul was 42, we had a lot of experience. We were very patient. And, Harry's got additional needs. He's neurodiverse. And we only wanted one child. There was never a question about that. So
Yeah.
it meant that we could put all our time and love into this one child that absolutely needed us.
Yeah.
Um,
Fantastic.
so yeah, that was the journey for a reason.
Brilliant. That's a really happy ending, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
But I think both parents say that as well.
Yeah, they do, definitely. So moving forward, Jo, because I know that you've grown this incredible community now through all your efforts and through the pain that you go through, because I know you've got type 1 diabetes, you've got problems with your hips. I think
Yeah,
both of
so I
your
had,
hips were replaced as well.
yeah, yeah. So I had one hip replaced at 40, one hip replaced at 47. Both, well, one due to my road accident and one due to osteoporosis, which is not really a surprise considering my bone density is, is was likely very low. I've since done lots of things to change it.
Yeah.
So two hip replacement. But yeah, when I was 42, 43, things started feeling a bit off. Didn't feel like myself and I couldn't pinpoint it. And then another year on, things, yeah, I started not being able to sleep well. Mood was irrational. And then because I was a personal trainer at this point, and all my female clients of the same age were all talking about the same thing. And this was pre-Davina, so this was before the Davina
Okay.
phenomenon. So if
Yeah.
menopause wasn't talked about at all then. It's just like sniggered about in the changing rooms.
Yeah.
And then so I thought, right, I'm gonna have to learn. So I went away and I did all the courses, everything I could. I researched as much as possible. And obviously it was perimenopause. And then since then, I have spent my time, my energy, and my passion on supporting perimenopausal women
Yeah.
through what can be a really challenging era. And I've transformed myself, and I have now created a business based on my knowledge of perimenopause and what we actually need to do versus what, we were told we had to do to
Yeah.
thrive. So,
And what would you say are the main points when you go through perimenopause? Because I know a lot of the audience will be listening in.
yeah,
Will be going through it.
in terms of what all women should do to support themselves through perimenopause, yeah, strength
Yeah.
training is number one. Strength training. Strength training is pretty much the medicine for all women because muscle is an indicator of health. The more muscle mass you have, the longer the quality of life you will lead and the longer you will live. There's a direct correlation scientifically between the muscle you have and the life you lead.
Right.
muscle is your metabolism. So very commonly, women in perimenopause complain about stubborn weight gain that they just cannot lose. And that
Yeah.
is literally because we lose muscle as we age. And then with perimenopause, it's not perimenopause or menopause causing weight gain. It's the
No.
fact that our lifestyle habits change. So when, for instance, when you're not sleeping well, because that's one of the most common initial symptoms, you're not sleeping well. So then you use sugar the next day to get through because you've got no energy and you make poor food
Sure.
choices. And then you don't want to get out and about and walk. And then you don't want to go to
Yeah.
the gym. So then you lose more muscle because of your habits are no longer supporting your muscle. Our appetite changes. We don't necessarily want to eat the 3 meals a day with protein. We start snacking more, grazing more. Then we start building insulin
Whining more.
resistance. Yeah, yeah, very common. Alcohol is a crutch. We think it helps us sleep.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't. It's a switch off from all the stress. So there are so many factors that play into exacerbating perimenopausal symptoms, contributing to the symptoms that we have, largely weight gain. But actually, it's not perimenopause. It's not the flux of the hormones causing the weight gain. It's the inability to adhere to the healthy habits we need to adhere to on a daily basis to maintain health. If you look
Wow.
at a 50-year-old woman versus a 20-year-old woman, a
Uh-huh.
20-year-old woman is normally far more active. They're going to the gym more. They're naturally eating a little more because they're hungrier. Then you look at a 50-year-old woman who's too sore, so she just sits on a spin bike. She doesn't go to any weights classes because it hurts. Her knees are a bit dodged, so she doesn't want to do any weights. And then she gets scared of it because there's pain. And then she doesn't want to eat 3 big meals a day, so she grazes and ends up having loads
Yeah.
more sugar. You know, things, these two individuals are very different, not because their hormones are different, but
Yeah.
because their actions are different.
Well, it's really interesting because I found through perimenopause that I put on 2 stone in a very short amount of time. And
Yeah,
it was really difficult for me to go through that. And at that time I was teaching. So I was kind of stood in a classroom. I wasn't moving very far. I was absolutely shattered. You know, I was out first thing in the morning, late at night. I was sat doing a lot of work at the desk
yeah,
when I wasn't working. And that kind of contributed to that. So I can see, you know, where you're coming from. And my interest in exercise after I was doing 70 hours a week and I had my 2 kids to look
yeah,
after was out of the window. However, the
100%.
wine did come in, you
Yeah,
know,
because
to
it's a
escape.
switch off.
Yeah,
Exactly that. And
absolutely.
that is so common. And then we sort of get blindsided by the amount of information coming at us about what we should do. You got to do
So
this, you've got to do
confusing.
that. You've got to supplement with this. You've got to be doing this exact exercise workout. You've got to be doing, don't do this, don't do that. And then because life is so overwhelming, because life is so stressful, rather than take action of any kind, we think, oh my God, like, is this too much information? And then we don't do anything.
Oh, exactly.
Rabbit in
Overwhelm.
headlights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And it's just way too overcomplicated.
Yeah. So how do you kind of bring that down then for ladies that are coming to see you? How do you kind of
Simplify.
simplify that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one, I listen. I listen to that individual because we're all very different. Our lifestyles are different. Like you said, if a client is a teacher and they're sitting down or they're in an office-based job and they're sitting down for 8 to 9 hours a day, I
Yeah.
can't then say to them, right, well, you got to go to the gym and you've got to do an hour and a half's workout and you've got to get out and you've got to run because that's just ridiculous. That's only going to add to stress. So I listen to that person's current lifestyle and listen to where they want to be and then create a plan that's baby steps because overwhelm is the worst thing. Sorry, overwhelm is the number one reason that women don't take action because
Yeah.
it's just simply too much. So you have to avoid overwhelm and you set baby steps. So say this client that's sitting in the office every day, she's walking less than 3,000 steps a day. So we set her a target of, okay, you're going to walk for 4,000 steps this week. And then next week, we might increase it to 5,000 because getting
Yeah.
that woman to go from 3 to 10K in one day is too big. It's
Yeah.
too big. She's going
Yeah.
to see that as too big a goal and think, well, what's the point? So we
Yeah.
increase the steps. We improve her food. What food does she like? How often does she eat? Let's see if we can remove a snack. Let's see if we can increase protein a little bit. She's not having any protein at lunch because she's having a sandwich. Let's remove the sandwich. Let's make it a chicken wrap,
Yeah.
with a big side salad. Let's try and moderate the alcohol, move it to just Friday and Saturday rather than every night.
Yeah.
Let's work on her sleep, because if you're not sleeping, then nothing is going to work. So what can we do to improve your sleep? Let's, set boundaries from when work can finish. Let's set boundaries from looking at screens. Let's put in practice 5 minutes when it's peace and quiet with your legs up the wall, breathing. Like
Yeah.
simple. It has to be simple action performed consistently over time, because that's what gets results. And then that is when the client starts feeling better, gets motivated, and then can adhere better and
Yeah.
starts feeling better, because it doesn't take too long. Contrary to what many clients think, they underestimate how much better you can feel on small changes performed consistently, and they overestimate how much weight they can lose in a short time. Like,
That's very true.
if they're not losing £6 in 2 weeks, then what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
okay, there's two ways of looking at this. We can lose £6 in 2 weeks, and then you're not going to be able to adhere to that over restrictive diet and overtraining diet. And in 4 weeks' time, you're going to be back to square one. Or we can lose £1 a week for 6
Yeah.
weeks and continue losing £1 a week, so that in 3 months, you're £12 down,
Yeah.
which is way more than you would have been if you've done the £6 in 2 weeks and fallen
Yeah.
off. Um, so I find my biggest battle is changing mindsets. 100%. It's not getting someone to follow a plan, because we can all follow a plan. It's getting a woman to change their pre sort of built in
Conceptions.
conceptions of, I have to eat less than 1,000 calories. I have to jog. I have to, I don't know, eat certain foods. No, you don't.
Yep.
You don't. It really comes down to basically you have to move better, sleep better, and eat better, and
Brilliant.
strength train.
And strength train.
100%. The one
Yeah.
thing, strength training, because muscle is everything. The more muscle you have, the better, the higher your metabolism will be, the easier you will find it to lose fat. The more toned, I'm putting that in
Yeah.
inverted commas, not a word that I like, but women resonate with, toned you will be. When basically it comes down to, do you want to be the 80-year-old that's in a care home with somebody else wiping their backside? Or do you want to be the 80-year-old that's still carrying their shopping, picking up their grandkids off the floor, getting up and down from the floor?
Yeah.
And I know which I want to be.
I know which one I want to be as well.
Yeah.
And it is the
And that,
latter. Yeah,
and that is
definitely.
strength training. There is nothing else
Fabulous. Yeah.
that will contribute to that.
You're on social media, so you're building your followers. So where can people find you, Jo? Because I think you're really inspirational, and I think you can help women, especially our listeners on here. So you're on YouTube?
I'm not on YouTube yet, but I will be. But I'm
Fabulous.
on Instagram at Jo Hoskins Coaching. I'm on Facebook as at Jo Hoskins, with a G. I have a website, which is www.thrivingafter40.co.uk. And I really am passionate about helping women. I feel that all my previous experiences, life experience, which I I know we're talking about it, but I don't really talk about it a lot. But I think that resilience, the empathy that I feel for other women, the resilience that I can help teach other women, it came here for a reason, and that is to help other women over 40, because I am so passionate about it. I am the woman who straightens other women's crowns. 100%.
Yeah, I
That's
can see that. And I'm the
yeah,
same as well, Jo. And I think that's probably why we've connected,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
pain is everyone else's gain. Through your painful
100%.
lessons, you're now turning it around into helping others, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And on Instagram and Facebook, I do give out so much free advice, and I want everybody to learn from what I've been through,
Yeah,
and to learn from the education I put myself through. You know how expensive it is to do all the courses, so I might as well
absolutely.
put it out there.
Yeah,
And there is so much misinformation and fear mongering as to what women over 40 need to do, that it's unbelievable, and it terrifies me. So the facts need to be out there, and
Definitely.
women need to know that it doesn't have to be done a certain exact way. They just need to work every day to improve their
Yeah.
lifestyle a little bit better each day. 6 weeks on, you're 6 weeks better off than you were 6 weeks ago, which
Yeah.
then impacts the rest of your life.
And you know, you're so true. And this year, my mantra is step by step, because even when you're building a business, building your
Yeah,
body, you know, strengthening your emotions or your mental health, it is literally a step by step.
yeah.
And
And
every
if you miss
time,
out those steps, you can't do it.
absolutely, you can't kind of do everything all at once.
Yeah. That image of the two people next door to each other on ladders, and one person is trying to climb these really big steps on a ladder, and they only get sort of halfway, whereas the ladder next door to them has got hundreds of tiny, 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 tiny rungs and can climb right to the top. And
Yeah.
it's a perfect visual of what you have to do if you want to improve any aspect of your life. Break it down into the tiniest manageable steps that you can adhere to every single day. That is your key.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that I love about you as well is that you're very authentic when you're on social media. You know, you can be
Yeah.
hot, you can be sweaty, you can just be at the
Yeah.
gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
also
don't
you
wear
provide,
makeup. I don't do
yeah,
anything like that.
but you also provide lots of kind of advice on supplements as well, which is
Yeah.
fantastic,
Yeah.
especially for women like me who are kind of
Yeah.
looking for something that we actually need rather than what, you know, people are just selling it through
Yeah.
advertising.
Exactly. I mean, there is a massive, massive issue with supplements at the moment, which is that every influencer is pushing supplements. And I can guarantee you that, we have this health pyramid, and at the bottom, we've got sleep, then we've got exercise, strength training, we've got nutrition. And right at the top of that pyramid, the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest little bit is supplements. Um, but the problem is, in today's society, we don't generally, as humans, want to put all that work in at the base. We want to go straight for the quick fix, the easy thing. What can I do
Yeah.
the easiest to make me feel better? Which is take a supplement. Unfortunately, then, that's a lot of money spent, which isn't going to make any difference to your life if you're not addressing your basic lifestyle habits, because no
Yeah.
supplement is going to help you if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you're not moving well. No supplement. You've wasted 30 quid a month on a supplement that's not going to change your life. What will
Yeah.
change your life is getting up for 10K steps a day in daylight. What will change your life is sleeping for 7+ hours a night, eating more protein, strength training, the stuff that doesn't actually cost that much.
Yeah.
Um, so we're a society that's driven by quick fixes. So the supplement market is growing hugely. Supplements are unregulated. They can contain anything. And you will know that everything at the moment is called menopause, menopause this,
Yeah.
menopause
Yeah.
that, which is rubbish. It's just,
Yeah.
we don't need menopause special supplements. We just need specific supplements. And there are a number of supplements that most women do need, but they're not going to be the answer that most women are looking for
Yeah.
without addressing lifestyle.
Brilliant. Well, it's been really great having you on the show today. My very
It's been
first one.
absolutely
So
lovely. You've been
it's been
brilliant.
great, Joe. So thank you so much for that.
It's an
And
absolute pleasure.
yeah, and just kind of let the audience know that they can follow you. What was your Facebook
Tag.
social media again?
So Instagram is at Joe Hoskins Coaching. So it's Hoskins with a G.
Yeah,
And Facebook is at Joe Hoskins.
fantastic. But it's been
Brilliant.
lovely having
And
you
look,
on, Joe.
and if any of your followers have any questions, like if they message me, I would love to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Okay.
Joe.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
Take care. Before we go, just a quick reminder to follow the podcast, because from now on, we're bringing you a brand new episode every single Monday. And if you've been enjoying these conversations, trust me, the next one is going to stay with you. We'll be joined by Jackie Walsh, who shares her deeply moving journey through childhood abuse, bullying, hospitalisation, and the heartbreak of stillbirth. And more importantly, how she found the strength to rise through it all. It's a story of resilience, courage, and hope. Thank you for choosing to be part of this journey today. I believe that together we can create a community where women uplift, support, and empower one another. If this resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to connect more deeply, visit my new website, Coffee Chat, etc. If you feel that you have something you would like to contribute to future episodes, then let me know. You can join our Facebook group, Inspiration, Coffee Chat, etc. And please remember that I aim to create a safe and supportive environment for our listeners. But it is important to reiterate, some of these episodes may cover sensitive topics. These subjects may evoke strong emotions or trigger responses, and I urge you to seek support or professional help if you're affected by any of them. I want you to leave feeling inspired, motivated, and empowered. For now, it's a see you later, and have a great day wherever you are in the world.